There are moments that kind of split your life into a before and an after. And sometimes you don't see it coming. Most of the time, you don't see it coming. Mine sounded something tearing inside my body. That's the best way I can describe it. I had fallen off of a rope wall during a Spartan race. It was maybe 10 feet. I don't know. It felt like 50. And I'm lying there in the mud. And here's the thing. When I'm lying there, I'm not thinking about finishing. I'm not thinking about being tough or mental toughness or grit or any of the stuff that you're supposed to think about during a race. I'm thinking one thing. And it was basically just, please let me still be able to move. Please let me not be paralyzed. That was it. That was all I wanted. And maybe you've had a moment like that. Probably not in the mud, but a moment where life stops being this thing that you're planning out, where it stops being theoretical, and all of a sudden your future just feels open and uncertain. But here's what I keep coming back to. Sometimes we choose the hard thing, and sometimes the hard thing just picks us. And that's what I want to talk about today. Hello, my powerful people. This is the Info Power Podcast, and I'm your host, Jasmine Conway. So, a few years ago, I signed up for a Spartan race, and I thought that I was just training for a race. But it turns out that I was training for my whole life. I just didn't know it yet. And last week, I told y'all the story of the race itself, the fall, the injury, all of it. And if you haven't heard that one, go back. It'll make this episode land better and probably make a little bit more sense. But today, I don't really want to talk about the fall. I want to talk about what came after it and what came before it, because both of those almost broke me, and both of those also built me. No, this episode is about overcoming adversity, but not the highlight reel version with the music and the finish line, but the real one, the unglamorous sitting on the floor version. And before I go any further, I want to talk to somebody specific. So maybe this is you. Maybe you just ended a relationship that changed you. Like you're not even the same person who walked into it, and now you got to figure out who you are on the other side. Or maybe you're carrying a grief that is so heavy that it cracked you wide open. And people think that you should be over it by now, but you're nowhere near over it. Or maybe you are starting a whole new chapter with zero guarantees, a new city, a new job, a new life, and no one can promise you that it's going to work out. If that is you, stay with me today, because this whole episode is for you, and I mean it. Because here's the truth. Everybody gets a season where they hear something crack. And it's not always your body. Sometimes the crack is a marriage. Sometimes it's a job. Sometimes it's something inside of you that you can't even name, but you know the sound. You know when life just split into a before and an after. So that's where we're going today. Okay. So when I hit the ground, the weirdest thing happened. Everything just went quiet. And this is strange because a Spartan race is loud. There's music, there's people yelling, there's an announcer somewhere. And when I hit the ground, it's like somebody turned the volume down on the whole world. And then people are running over. There's the staff, there's a couple racers, and everybody's asking me the same thing. Do you want medical? Do you need a medic? Should we call somebody? And I remember saying, and I don't fully know why I said it, I just said, just let me try to get up first. Not because I was being brave. Let me be super clear about that. I was scared out of my mind. I said it because I needed to know. Like before anybody touches me, before anybody tells me anything, can I move? Can I feel my legs? Am I going to be able to walk out of here? And looking back, what gets me is how small my goal got in about 4 seconds. Because that morning, my goal was to finish that race. That's it. My goal that morning was to finish that race. And now I'm in the mud, and my goal is not even finishing the race. It's not even standing up. My goal shrank down to just move your foot. That's it. That was the entire mission in that moment. Move your foot. And I did. I moved my foot. And then it was, okay, sit up. Then get on one of your knees. and then stand up, and then, see if you can take a step. And I think that there's something in there, because when life it starts to fall apart, we do this thing where we demand answers to questions that we have no business answering yet. We want to know how it ends. We want to know if it goes back to normal. We want to know what our life is going to look like in a year. And yeah, you're not going to get that, not right now. And sometimes life hands you exactly enough for one step, for just one step and not an inch more. And here's what took me years to believe: one step is actually enough. It doesn't feel like it's enough, but it is enough. Now, here's the thing: lying in that mud, that wasn't actually the first time I'd heard that sound, that before and after. Because a few years before the race, and this is the part that I don't talk about much, and my heart is literally speeding up a little bit right now as I even bring it up, but I went through something that scared me a whole lot more than the rope wall. I started to wake up in the mornings and I was unable to see. Like, I couldn't see all the way. I wasn't fully blind, but when I'd wake up, my eyes and everything, it was just bright. You know how it feels when someone points a flashlight in your face and everything just goes white? It was like that. I would just look at the ceiling and I'd open my eyes and I just see light. And when I would look at down at my hands, I would just see a glare. And then as the day kind of went on, my vision would come back slowly. And by the afternoon, I was more or less okay. And then I go to sleep. I wake up and the same thing. I'd wake up and all I could see were bright lights and my vision was blurry and I couldn't really see. And I was afraid. That was the same thing every morning. And at first, I would tell myself that I was just tired, right? You try to tell yourself the easy story. And then I told myself it's going to go away on its own, and it didn't. And then days turned into weeks, and then weeks turned into appointments. There were so many appointments. One specialist sends you to another one, and that one orders a test, and this one means you wait. And I want to tell you about one particular day, because I think the day-to-day blur, that's hard to hold on to, but there is this one day that I will never forget. And my phone rang, and it was the doctor's office, and I looked at the phone and it was buzzing in my hand, and I let it go to voicemail. I just let it ring because I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready for what I might hear, and I had to sit down right where I was because the room had actually it started spinning, and I could feel it coming. That thing, my chest was getting tight and my breathing started to go shallow, and my whole body was starting to tell me that something was very wrong. And this was the feeling of a panic attack coming in. And my mind just took off. Like, what if this is a degenerative thing? What if it doesn't stop? What if my vision is just the first thing to go? And then what? I lose the ability to take care of myself? And that was the thought that nearly took me out. Not even just the blindness, but the idea that I might not be able to care for myself anymore. And that was one of the lowest moments in my entire life. Just sitting on the floor, scared of my own voice messages. And look, maybe some of y'all know the exact feeling. Maybe not with your eyes, but that thing where the phone rings and you can't pick up while you're waiting on test results, a call, a conversation, and the not knowing is somehow heavier than the bad news would even be. Because the not knowing, that's the part that gets you. So here's the part that I couldn't see at the time. And I really couldn't, pun fully intended. But in the middle of all of that fear, something was being built inside of me. I had no idea. It did not feel like growth. It felt like I was drowning. But that season with the vision loss and the waiting and the appointments and the voicemail that I was too scared to play, it was building up my capacity to handle hard things. Because by the time I came out on the other side of it, and my eyes did come back, my vision did come back. I have 20/20 vision. I'll get to that. I had something that I didn't have before. I had a reference point. I had proof. I had this place in my memory that I could go point to and say, I made it through that. That nearly broke me, and I am still here. And that reference point is everything, because the next time my life cracked, the next time I was scared, lying in the mud, some part of me way in the back went to, oh, I know this place. I've survived this before. I know how to do this. That's the gift that the scary season gives you. And it's the cruelest, most backwards gift there is, because you only get it by going through the thing that you could have never chosen. It hands you a new floor, a new sense of how much you can actually carry. And the other thing that it taught me is your mindset is not small. It's not something that's just cute and extra. The days that I told myself, this is forever, this is the end of my life, those days I could barely move. And the days I told myself that I just have to get through today's appointment and that's it, just today, those are the days that I could function. I had the same eyes, the same fear, but it was a totally different day. And the only thing that changed was my internal narrative, the stuff that I was saying to myself on the inside, which taught me that you have to encourage yourself on purpose. You have to encourage yourself, like out loud sometimes, in the mirror, even if it feels ridiculous, because your mind, it is running the whole show, whether you're paying attention to it or not. Oh, here's something else that I figured out in the middle of all that. And it kind of annoyed me, honestly, because I didn't want it to be true. But most of us think we need to know how things turn out before we can move. Like we need the full picture first. We hate uncertainty. We're allergic to it. We treat it like a problem to solve before we are fully allowed to take a single step. And we don't. We really don't. We just think that we do. And the proof is your whole life. Think about it. You got married not knowing how it would go. You took the job not knowing. You moved to the new city. You trusted someone. You started the thing. None of it came with a guarantee. Nobody handed you the ending first. And you did it anyway. And not because you weren't scared, but because life just kept going and you went with it. That's it. So this podcast is called In Full Power and it's relatively new. This show is barely a couple months old. So I'm honestly still figuring out what that phrase means out loud with y'all. But when I first picked the name, I had this certain picture in my head. I thought full power meant confidence and always being sure and feeling strong and having a plan and knowing exactly what move to make next. And then I go back and I look at that woman who was on the floor, too scared to listen to the voicemail, and that woman laying on the ground in the mud, and neither one of them was confident. Neither one of them had the full plan, and both of them were like the most in full power version of myself that I ever been in my life. And so I think I had it backwards. Full power is not about pretending that you're fine. It's not having all the answers. It's definitely not this fake positivity where everyone is just pushing through with this smile all the time. It's not that. It's not that. Sometimes full power is just opening your eyes when you're terrified of what you're going to see or what's there. Sometimes it's finally listening to the voicemail. Sometimes it's just getting out of bed, putting your feet on the floor. That's the whole thing for that day, and that counts. Sometimes it's crying about it and then making the phone call anyway, or both at the same time. Because your power is never the absence of fear. That's the part that I had wrong. Power is just you refusing to hand your life over to the fear. The fear can be there. It's allowed to be in the room. It just doesn't get to drive. And here's another one. We are so bad at predicting what we can survive. Like, we say things like, oh, I could never handle that. That would destroy me. I would never get over that. And we say it about other people's lives. And we see what somebody else is going through and we think, there's no way. Not me. I would fall apart. And then it shows up at your door and you don't fall apart. Or, okay, maybe you fall apart a little bit. But then you get up and you keep living somehow. But you do. And it's not because you're some superhero. It's because people, we just adapt. We persevere. We keep going almost without our permission. And usually you find out you've got way more in you than you ever thought. But, and this is important, it is not this dramatic kind of strength. It is the quiet kind, the kind that nobody claps for. It's the strength to get through a Tuesday, the strength to make dinner when you don't feel like even eating, the strength to finally pick up the phone, to go, all right, let's try this again. And I think that quiet, nobody's watching kind of strength is honestly the realest one there is. It's the one that actually carries you. So Maybe you're listening to this right now in your life. It feels like a lot, like too much, like you are completely overwhelmed and you don't even know where to start. And you're sitting here trying to figure out the whole thing at once. How do I recover? How do I fix it? How do I rebuild? How do I start over? How am I going to get through this? And I want to tell you gently, maybe that is the wrong question. Maybe the answer was never going to be in finishing the whole race. Maybe the answer is just in moving your foot. Because I keep telling you that line and I really want you to hear it because that's literally all I did. I did not have a plan in the mud. I didn't have a 5-step recovery system on the floor. I moved my foot. I played the voicemail. I made the next appointment. I just did one thing and then the next thing. And yeah, eventually those steps, they turn into miles. They do, but not because I figured out the miles up front. They added up when I wasn't even looking. They always start with one little step that you didn't even think mattered. So I want to leave you with this, and I really want you to take it with you today. That woman who was too scared to play her voicemail, I eventually played it, and I kept showing up, and my vision came back. And that woman in the mud, I got up. I finished my race, and I am sitting here right now talking to you with a whole life I was once way too scared to even imagine. But that is not the part I'm most proud of. Hear me. It's not that my sight came back. It's not that I crossed the finish line. The thing that I'm proud of is that I kept going on the days that I had no proof that it would get better, on the mornings where I was scared to open my eyes, on no confidence, no plan, no guarantee. I kept going because the next step was right there in front of me. And so I took it. And then I took one after that, and then another one. And listen, you powerful person. If I could do that, you can too. I am no more special than you are. I just kept moving my foot. So wherever you are today, if you just lost the relationship, the job, if you're carrying the grief, if you're starting the new chapter with no guarantees, I need you to hear me say this. You are not as fragile as the story in your head says you are. You have survived hard things you swore would end you. You are listening to me right now, which means you made it through every single one of your worst days so far. Every single one. That is not luck. That is you. And every one of those days became a reference point. Proof that you can point to the next time and say, I made it through that and I can make it through this. You do not have to figure out the whole race today. You don't need all the answers. You don't need to know how it all turns out. All you have to do today is move your foot. And I'm telling you with my whole chest, that one step is going to carry you further than you can even see right now. Because like I said at the top, sometimes we choose the hard thing and sometimes the hard thing chooses us. But either way, you do not have to have it all figured out to keep moving. And you powerful person, you are so much stronger than you have any idea of. You have had it in you this whole time. That is what it means to be in full power. So go be powerful today, even if powerful means just getting up and getting off the floor, especially if what that means. But okay, real talk before I let you go. Getting back up, that was a hard part, but it wasn't the hardest part. And I know it sounds like it should have been, but it wasn't. The hard part was admitting that I wasn't going to be able to finish that race on my own, that I needed someone. And man, that took a kind of humility that I did not have yet. It was so much worse than the pain. So next week, that's what we're going to get into. Why asking for help and actually leaning on your support systems, the people around you, can feel harder than the actual injury. Why we'd rather hurt than raise our hand. But until then, just keep moving forward, even if it's just 1 inch. You stay powerful, and I'll see you right back here next week. If this resonated with you, share it with another powerful person who needs to hear it. I'm Jasmine Conway. This is the In Full Power Podcast. I'll talk to you next time.